This is Nebraska Outdoors, the show that gives you the how-to guide to outdoor skills. Call the show 402-489-1240. Nebraska Outdoors on KFOR.
Hey, Outdoor Nation. Welcome to Nebraska Outdoors. I'm Jeff Rollinson along with Aaron Hirschberger of the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Folks, thanks for tuning in this Thursday evening. As you do every Thursday evening, we talk hunting, fishing, shooting, sports, camping, wildlife, natural history of Nebraska, and all points in between. Of course, tonight is no exception. Hershey,
yeah,
I got to be honest with you. There's so many things going on. We'll try to get to all of them.
Well, fall has begun, officially.
Well, it officially has.
Officially and unofficially.
And this is a big weekend for us. This is a big weekend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, big weekend for us.
National Hunting and Fishing.
We'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
Big weekend
All right.
for us. For all hunters and shooters and anglers, this is a good weekend for us. We celebrate us. And we like to celebrate us. Nothing wrong with celebrating us.
Got the cake made already.
Yeah, already. We had cake in the office today.
We did. We did, the prelude.
Mm-hmm. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. And not just going to talk about all these things that are coming up because there's a ton going on. But, I tell you, outdoor storytelling. When I bring that up, Hershey, if I even say that to you, I know whose name comes to mind. I don't care who you are. If I go to anybody within the Game Fish and Wildlife Agency in the Midwest and I say outdoor storytelling, there's one name that's probably going to come to mind. I guarantee.
I agree. And this has been one we've been looking forward to for some time.
It's hard to get him on the show. Our attorney's got to talk to his attorneys, and we got to get it all worked out and get the payment details and all that. But by golly, when we do work it out, it's a lot of fun.
Magic. It's magic.
Now, I remember this gentleman being referred to as Outdoor Legend, Nebraska's own Outdoor Legend. I just call him Mr. Outdoors.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Well, that's what we call him, Mr. Outdoors.
I've heard him ask you to call him sir more than a couple of times. So no.
He's never done that.
Yeah. I call him Little Nicky Turpin.
Little Nicky Turpin.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages.
Yeah.
And this is a family show, so remember that, Dick.
No,
all
okay.
ages, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Mr. Outdoors himself, Dick Turpin.
Thank you very much. That was a shining example of my character. Yeah. And you were gonna talk about outdoor stories. You're talking about storytelling, and I've heard some of the best storytellers in the world.
You've told some of the best stories
when I was in hunter education. There were people in that. There was a guy from North Carolina that was just magic. There was a guy from New Hampshire that was just. I mean, he was absolutely the best storyteller. He of course, he had that northeastern accent and everything, and he was just. So they were just storytellers all over, and a lot of them were outdoor, of course, stories. They weren't like nasty stories or anything. They were just good outdoor stories.
Yeah.
And when you said we're going to be talking about storytelling, I got thinking about that. You know, I'd hate to think of the amount of outdoor stories I know about. You know, deals. You know what?
I'd hate to think of the amount of hours I spent listening to your outdoor stories.
I'm 84 years old. For goodness' sake, I've heard a lot of stories.
You've heard a lot of stories.
Oh man, I've been around town.
Now you bring up some of those good storytellers in hunter education, so let's kind of start there. For many years, hunter education was driven by law enforcement, game wardens, now conservation officers. Does that tie into it? Because I got to assume conservation officers, when you're an officer out there enforcing the fish and game laws, you do hear a lot of stories. So is that part of the prerequisite of being a good storyteller?
Well, yeah, it kind of is, because you got to sort that out. Is what you got to do. I mean, you've got to pick the good from the bad. You know, you got to pick those stories that people are going to want to listen to, and that's what you try to do. You try to be kind of selective. Now, some of the game warden stories are good ones. I mean, but some of them aren't too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of them deals you might see on TV said this may offend you because it may be a little violent or something. You know, if you hit somebody over the head of the club or something. You know? So you got to be a little bit careful about that. But I just think about the things that just to me were just so funny. And I'm going to use names too. Because I want these guys to know.
All right, make sure we mark
everybody in here knows.
You're on notice, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody here knows Larry Porter. You know Larry Porter.
Oh God, Larry Porter.
Larry Porter is
what a guy. Say it again, Larry Porter.
Larry Porter used to be the outdoor writer for the World Herald.
Yeah, great guy.
I just love him. He's one of my best friends. We go have coffee every once in a while. Well, I got to tell you this. I hunted up in in Canada with Larry. We went archery hunting for bear.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we go up there and hunt bear, and I killed a couple bears up there, and that's all I need. I don't need to kill any more bears. But I got one on my floor. It was a big old bear, so I had her skinned and made a rug and all that stuff like you would, sets in front of the fireplace. So I appreciate that. But I'll tell you what was funny. Larry Porter, we went up there. I think we went moose hunting too. I'll tell you that story too. We went moose hunting up there, bow and arrow. And but Larry, when we went up there that one year, it's sometimes when those bears come in, they're hard to tell how big they are.
Yeah.
If you don't have something to compare to, you don't know whether that bear is this tall.
They all look big when they first come in.
Yeah. Well, Larry shot this bear, and it was a little, teeny, weeny bear. I mean, you could pick it up with one hand and shake it, Well, anyway, he brought it in, and of course we all give you the raspberries, about shooting that little bitty bear. Well, when we come back across the border, we get into Minnesota. There was a place there that had a butcher shop that did our meat. Mm-hmm. So we'd leave our animals there. We'd pack them, leave them there, and he'd all pack that up, and then somebody'd go up there and get it, or else he'd ship it. Well, there was right across the street from that butcher shop, and it was an old style butcher shop, was the taxidermist, and he was a character. You walk in that shop, I don't know how he ever kept anything straight. It was just so trashed, hides hanging here, skulls over here, antlers over here, just junk all over. Well, anyway, Larry took that little bear in there, and the guy says to Larry, he said, "You know something?" Larry said, "What?" He said, "This will be the best mount you ever have." And Larry said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I'm not kidding." Well, Larry said, "Boy, they all tease me about shooting a little bear." He said, "I'm going to mount this little bear on a tree stump, like it's just crawled up and it's looking with its paws kind of up like, where's Mama?" And he said, "I'll fix it up, and you can set that in front of your fireplace. That'll be the best mount you ever got." And when he finally got it, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so proud of that little bear. He's got a sailor's cap on it. It's in front of his fireplace. It's that little white sailor's cap. It's just so cute, you can't believe it. Well, anyway, a lot of people aren't into that, but Larry, that is, I mean, he's just really proud of that.
Oh yeah, well,
the mount was good. Okay, now here's the Paul Harvey rest of the story. The mount never come, and the taxidermist still had this, and Larry got a little nervous. So the guy got the meat all done, and somebody made arrangements to go up and get it, So they checked with the taxidermist, and he said, "Oh, I don't know where that is." He started looking around, and he couldn't find it. So they couldn't bring it back. But of course, it wasn't done. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't bring it back anyway. Well, anyway, Larry waited. I'm talking about 2 or 3 months. Mm-hmm. And he'd never heard anything for him. Finally, one day he got a call, and it was the taxidermist. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Larry, I'm calling about the bear." "Oh," Larry said, "Great. You got the bear done?" "Yeah," he said, "it was already done. I just couldn't find it." He said, "You couldn't find it?" "No," he said, "it was sitting on the shelf behind a squirrel." That's how little that bear was. Well, anyway, we still tease Larry about that because he just got he was so funny. Yeah, it was sitting up on the shelf behind a squirrel.
Hidden by a
red fox squirrel hit it. Yeah. So that's how tiny that bear is. But I get thinking about outdoor stuff that I've seen. I'm going to tell you one I saw right down here at McDonald's on Capitol Parkway. What is it, about 24th or wherever that is? That one that's right down there where the road kind of splits. I pulled in there one morning and got breakfast. I always get a sausage biscuit and hash browns. Well, they didn't. There was something about the hash browns. I said, "I'll just give me French fries." So they gave me an order of French fries, which they're good French fries, but I just didn't want to eat them all. Well, I just pulled across there and parked where the cars park, and there's grass there, and there's blackbirds there. The purple grackles, the big blackbirds, and that one blackbird, he's out there picking. I thought, I wonder if he'll eat one of these French fries. So I broke one in two, and I threw it over the cab of the truck.
Because you weren't going to give him a whole one. You were
no, I wasn't going to split with a whole
one.
French fry. Not me. I paid 80 cents for them. Well, anyway, that blackbird, that thing bounced on the grass, and he picked it up, and he flew across west to what used to be the telephone company building there. And he flew up, and there was one tree there about this big around, not a very big tree, but it was probably 20 foot high. Mm-hmm. And he flew up in that tree with that French fry. And he was just gone just a little bit, and by God, he's back out. And he come back and flew down and lit in that grass. So I threw another one over the top. He picked it up, flew across the street, went up in that tree. And I thought, well, he's feeding birds. It's either a mother, it looked like a male, though. But anyway, so he come back, and I threw another part of a French, because he could fly with them then, see?
Sure.
If it wasn't whole. I threw that part of the French fry, he grabbed it up the tree he went. And I thought, well, that's really something. Well, he's up there a little bit, and all of a sudden, this young blackbird comes falling out of that tree. And I mean, he ain't old enough to fly. And he bounces on the ground, and he runs across the street. A car runs over him, but misses him, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, right underneath.
Yeah, right underneath.
It's getting intense here,
And I'm
guys.
thinking, oh, man,
We're all worried about the bird at this
yeah.
stage.
He runs across the street. Well, he gets to the curb, and he can't fly, and the curb is just slanted enough, he can't get up on it. You know, he can't get up on the curb to get the French fry. So he's just trying to get it. And I thought, how in the world did that little bird know to do that? How? You answer me that. Did his dad fly up and said, listen, son, you're going to have to get your own French fries. You go ahead. You go ahead and run across the street there and crawl up there and get you some French fries. But the little blackbird couldn't make it. But he was just like there was some kind of a communication there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even those little birds, like McDonald's, they know where to get McDonald's.
And I should have probably went down and caught him and took him back, because I could have, because he couldn't go anywhere. But I'd have probably got run over then.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
So I could have threw him back over there and get him up in that tree. But somehow or other, either he could, I thought to myself, well, he could probably see it. Maybe he could see his dad or mom picking those French fries up, and maybe that's what got him, thinking, well, I can do that.
Food's a big motivator.
Yeah.
This guy,
he's a little bit big for his britches, but my gosh, when he hit the ground, he just bounced. And you know how the little pin feathers are.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He tried to fly, but he couldn't.
I thought he could, but not quite.
And he couldn't get to the French fry.
We've all been there where we eat too many French fries and we bounce a little.
Yeah, you bounce a little when you hit the
We've all
ground.
made that run to get French fries.
Yeah. But I was thinking one time about outdoor stuff. I was going down 148th Street.
Yeah.
Down to my cabin.
Okay, yeah.
I always go out that way west.
Neat cabin.
Yeah,
Neat
I always
place.
go out west, and I go down 148th. And I had my grandkids, Grady and Will. They were just little. And I had 4 grandkids, so I had a couple of Jennies, too, grandkids. We get down there, and it's July. We're just going down to mess around. So it's in July, and we're going down there, and I'm running out of time. Or I'm not.
Oh, you've got a couple
3
minutes.
minutes.
Oh, I got enough time.
You can do it.
And as we get down there on that oil, and it's hot, it's really warm. Here come this doe deer. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Across to go onto that oil, and she's got a fawn with her, just one.
Yeah.
And he's little. Born in June,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But he was late in June because he was spotted and tiny and spindly. And he's right behind her, and she stepped out on that oil, and then she stepped back. And I stopped and watched her, and the kids are all looking, I said, look at that little deer. Oh, look at Gramps. Oh, my gosh. Well, she stepped out on there again. That little deer tried to follow her, but he didn't get to the oil. He stepped, he stayed in the grass. Well, she got on that hot oil, and she stepped back in. So I told the kids, well, maybe that hot oil is getting to her. She can't stand the heat of that because it was really hot. Well, anyway, the car come from over the other hill, come running down the road, and I thought, oh, she's going to get hit just sure in the world. So I honked the horn, and well, she turned and ran then and just left him standing there. And when she got out in the cornfield, he turned and ran. And, of course, she's got her tail going like this. When that little fawn turned and ran, his little tail was up just going. And I said to the kids, you notice that? Why did they do that, Gramps? I said, well, that's a warning. His mom is saying there's danger. But who taught him to do that? How did he know to do that? Were they there behind a cedar tree someplace? And she's done, look, son, when you get scared, no, that
Lift that tail and flag it back left and right.
That
Listen
didn't
to
happen.
Mom,
That
yeah.
didn't happen, no. It didn't.
Oh, gosh. I tell you, I know we're gonna have to take a break here, Dick, but you've shared with us so many outdoor stories over the years. I mean, every time we go anywhere, and if you're at a conference or workshop, there's just a pile of people sitting around you. I want to get into some of those, but I also want to, when we come back, talk about what goes into a good story. You know, it's some of it's facts, some of it's not, maybe, but
you got to embellish.
Yeah, a little bit.
Embellish is my word.
So we got a lot more, folks. We got Dick Turpin in the studio. A lot more to come right here on Nebraska Outdoors.
You're listening to Nebraska Outdoors on KFOR, FM 103.3, 1240 AM.
And a big welcome back to Outdoor Nation. This is Nebraska Outdoors. I'm Aaron Hershberger. He's Jeff Rollinson. We're both with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. And folks, we have a doozy of a show this evening. We're kind of celebrating National Hunting and Fishing Day, which is this Saturday, the 25th, to kind of recognize all the things that anglers and hunters do as far as management, conservation, funding, all the neat opportunities we have here in the state. And I can't think of any better way, Jeff, than doing that with a little storytelling from the great outdoors. Fishing, though, I do want to toss this out. Here in Nebraska, fishing is a $324 million impact in the state. 210 of that is in retail sales, over 3,000 jobs supported in just fishing. We'll talk a little bit more about hunting here in just a bit. But, folks, in studio, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the intro, because we've got one Dick Turpin in studio.
Oh, the legendary. I mean, the legendary.
Spinning some yarns, telling some stories, and all that type of stuff. So, and Dick, you've been...
The myth, the legend.
Yeah, the man.
How long did you work for the Nebraska Game and Parks?
40.
40 years.
40 years, yeah. I started up in Bassett, just grunting, working in the parks and stuff out there. We covered that whole district. And then the warden there wanted me to become a warden, so I went on as a game warden. And I went out to Ponca, was there for, 12 years or so. And then moved to Lincoln, took over the Hunter Ed job. Stayed in the Hunter Ed job. And then Mr. Mahoney, when he was the director, he changed and made the, we had all the educational programs. We had boating, archery, we had firearms.
Yep.
We had that program in the schools they had.
Yep.
Which was Project Wild.
Wild?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Mr. Mahoney made that a division. So then that took me out of the I&E division, actually, and put us in an education division, which didn't really change my job other than expand it, because then I worked in all those fields.
Sure.
Carl Wolf and I, gosh, that one year, Carl Wolf and I, in a year, and I'll get this, in a year, we did those outdoor education workshops, 3 hours a night or whatever, 4 hours a night. Carl Wolf and I did 63 of them once.
Ooh.
That's more than one a week. And we went from one end to the other. They were just more fun.
Yeah.
There's a story right there. We were out in someplace, little town of Alma or someplace.
Yeah, okay.
And they got a big gymnasium, and we're in this gymnasium. Now, the gymnasium, you walked in the south end. On the east side, there was a big overhead door so you could drive trucks in and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then right beside that, inside, was the stage.
Nice.
For doing performances. And then it had a basketball court. Well, it was all lined up with chairs, and we were doing a turkey workshop. And the turkey workshops were really popular. I mean, we had hundreds of people show up. There'd be standing room only and a lot of them. Well, that was the same at this night. It was really crowded. They had probably a dozen big fans because it was hot and muggy. Oh, it was sticky. And a thunderstorm came up. They had that big door open. And right across was the big consumers, what do they call those big things, the transformers and everything, one of those fenced-off deals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A substation and all,
It's going to draw a lot of electricity is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Carl and I would split that up. The whatever we're going to talk about, Carl took a part of it, I'd take a part, he'd take a part, I'd take a part. Well, I was up and I was telling him, I said, your chances, and this was a statistic that we learned, your chances of killing a tom turkey in the spring are 75% better. This was what my statement is going to be. Are 75% better if you can spend 3 days.
Mm-hmm. I've heard you say that many times.
Yeah. Yep. So if you spend that third day, you got a 75% better chance of killing the turkey. So I said that, and just as I said that, your chances, and I made a point of it, I said your chances of killing a tom turkey are 75%. And just when I said that, lightning struck that. And I mean, in my ear, it just hurt. It just went wham! And I said, okay, 50%.
As he prays to the sky.
I said, okay, 50%.
I'm just kidding, God. I'm just kidding.
It was funny because it took the crowd just a second to catch on, and when they did, it just cracked them up. I mean, Carl said to me, "I don't know how you figure that stuff so quick." I said, "I don't either, but that just fit
perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings me to a question. When did you realize you had a gift of outdoor storytelling?
I don't know that it was a gift. I don't know that I ever really realized I had it or I do it, but I don't know. It just kind of, I don't know. I don't know that I still know that, but I know a lot of stories.
When you got caught getting in trouble growing up, do your parents just waiting there to write down the story you came up with to get out of it, or?
Well, my mom she didn't let me get away with nothing. I mean, she'd whack me around. My gosh, there ain't nothing wrong with a good spank. A lot of people don't believe that, but my mom straightened me out several times, and I stayed straightened out too. She's a little short, fat woman. I tried to outrun her one day, and she caught me. Oh, man, she whipped me. She had one leg up like this, smacking me with her hand on my butt. I'll tell you, that old girl could go. I didn't ever try to outrun her again. I'll tell you that. Well, the moose story.
Yeah, I want to hear about the moose story.
I'm up there with Larry Porter, the big bear killer. I'm there with Larry, and we're hunting moose, and I decided, those moose it's just hard to kill a moose with a bow. You can call them, and a lot of times the next day you go back, and they're just getting there the next day. That's the truth. You go back where you call because
they're a little slow.
He might have heard that cow there and be snooping around for her the next day. So I went up in there, and I'm hunting on these old logging trails. Well, I noticed that there's tracks up and down those logging trails when we're bear hunting stuff up there before, and I thought, if a guy just had a blind and set it up along one of those trails, find where those moose are traveling.
Yeah.
And then set that blind up right along the trail, 10, 15 yards, and just hunt out of a blind. So the next year we went, I took a blind. Little pop-up
Innovative.
Blind. Set it up, and the guy that I hunted with, he said, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "I'm going to set it up on one of them trails and get me a moose." Well, I set it up and didn't see any moose for a day. Set it all day, never saw nothing. Next day, there'd been a bull moose down there that night.
Oh.
Went down the road, but I never saw him, of course. So I get back in the blind. Well, at noon, they were bringing the lunch out to the road, which is about a half mile. So I said, "Well, I'll walk out and get my pop and stuff." And I said, "Okay." So I walked out and got the pop and the sandwiches and stuff and some chips and ate lunch with them on the pickup. And I walked back. There'd been a cow and a calf right by my blind. And the cow had turned around because she saw the blind. You could tell, see. So I knew I was in the right place. There was a cow, So I thought, boy, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to sit right here. So we do that again. I meet him out there and eat lunch. Well, you get kind of tired, you eat lunch.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So I'm sitting in that blind with my bow, and right next to the road, there was somebody had thrown out an old pop can. It was so old that you couldn't even read what was on it. It might have been a beer can, pop can, but it was an aluminum can, kind of bent. I stuck a stick in the ground, and I stuck that can up on it to let the guide know where I was. So when he drove, he didn't drive by me. Of course,
okay.
I'd have hollered at him. But I told Brian, I said, "When you get there to pick me up tonight, you know about where I'm at, but there's a pop can sticking up." He said, "Okay." So I'm sitting there in that blind, and I go to sleep, fall sound asleep. And my head is down, I got my bow here in my lap. I don't even have an arrow knocked on the bow. I still got it in the quiver. And I just fall sound asleep. Pretty soon I heard tink, and I looked over, and a moose had kicked that can. That can wasn't from here to the wall from my blind.
3 feet.
And he'd kicked that can, and he was looking at it. And he's a nice bull. I mean, it wasn't a big bull, but I was going to kill him. And I thought, man alive. And he's right there. Honest to God, when I pulled, the arrow would have hardly been off the bow when it hit him. And so I reached around and I pulled that bow, and I couldn't tell for sure the arrow was up on the rest, so I hit it with my finger to get it up on there. But it hit that bow and went tink.
Yeah.
And when it did, that moose wheeled and went out of there. Well, I just had my draw made, and when I went back, the windows are like this.
Yeah.
I got
Triangle.
too far back, and I was into the canvas, and I couldn't shoot him, see. So when I told the guys the story, well, of course, they gave me falling asleep. And they went on and on, you know. So the name of that road to this day, going down to that swamp, is Sleepy Hollow. They named it Sleepy Hollow. Boy, that's the truth. There was my moose. But the idea worked.
Oh,
yeah.
Sound.
Oh, man.
Sound.
Oh, man, it was
Just
good.
keep you awake, and we got a moose.
If I just could have had,
Proves the theory.
Yeah. If I wouldn't have moved my finger to put that arrow up on, I'd have probably got him. Cause
Well,
you know,
moose
years
steak,
ago, and
right there.
we've known each other for a lot of years, Dick. And a lot of
Yeah.
years ago, you told me you made a statement, something about, you know, it's not necessarily how it happened, it's how you remember it happening. It makes the story, or something like that. I don't remember the details, but you know, what goes into a good outdoor story? Obviously, you got to lived it first, right? You got to be out there and do these things.
You got to have the basics.
Yeah, you got to live it
Something
first.
had to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't have that, so I mean,
and
you got to
some
get
of
out and
them-
do it.
Some of them you don't have to embellish. I'm just thinking now about another moose story. We went up trout fishing. Two buddies of mine, old Larry Sanger and Bobby Maurer, my brother-in-law, went up into Colorado, and I got a bear permit. So I had my muzzleloader, and it was a muzzleloader that a friend of mine, Bobby Brewer, he'd made it for me. We made the barrel out of some kind of a seamless pipe. It made a 50 caliber muzzleloader. I made the stock for it, put some old shotgun locks on it. It's a pretty good looking old gun.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
So I took that up there with me, and those guys fished for trout. Well, we went up that river. I can't remember, the Colorado River? I can't remember. We went up that river anyway, and when we got up there, I think I got the wrong state. We were in Montana.
Well, then it could have been the Gallatin, the Madison, all kinds of.
Yeah, it
big
wasn't the
rivers.
Gallatin. I think it was the Colorado.
Could have been Colorado, yeah.
It wasn't very big. We rode across on horses. But anyway, we got up there, and the mountain had slid in, and it formed a dam. And it was probably, that dam was probably maybe as big as, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 acres.
Gotcha.
Good sized pond.
Yeah, and of course it's still flowing in there. The river is. So I get up one morning. Every day a moose knocked our tent down. I saw 7. We were there for 5 days.
They
I saw 7 different bull moose.
Wow.
Well, the first day though, I got up and the boys went fishing. We talked. We cooked breakfast. I took my possible bag of my old muzzleloader and I walked up to the south, upstream, and the timber petered out up there and just went into kind of brush and then right up a mountain. So I'm up there. I get right to the end of that timber, and I look out in that brush, and here's this big round rump. And I thought, there's a bear picking in berries. You can see it moving, back and forth. I thought, boy, howdy, I'm in like Flynn. I got on my hands and knees, and I crawled right up the edge of that timber, which was right along the river. I mean, you could pretty near take the muzzle and stick it in the water. And so I'm sitting there watching, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking, boy, how do I get a shot? Will that bear turn around? Because the bear wasn't that far, 30 yards.
Oh, yeah.
Or, well, then it stuck its head up, and it was a moose. I was just looking at his rear end, and he's standing in that brush that's about 3 foot deep. Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at that at the top of the ground. Yeah. So it was a moose, and I go, oh, God. Well, then I look across the river, which ain't very far. That's probably 35, 40 yards. And here stands a cow moose with twin calves.
I'll be darned.
Now, I don't know whether you know this, but cow moose don't have calves
No.
every year. Sometimes it's 3 years in between calving. And to have twins like that was really something. And they were just born. They were just so spindly and so ugly, but so cute. You know?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I noticed she had her head down, kind of, and her ears pinned back, and she's turning like this. Well, I don't know about moose, but if you see an elk doing that, you get out of town, because that cow elk is meaning to kill you. If they turn their head like that and their ears are back, and you can hear them gritting their teeth, get out of Dodge, because it's panic time. Well, this old cow moose, she turns her head, she's got her ears back, I can't hear her teeth, But she's got her ears back, and all of a sudden she drops, and I look up on the edge of the timber, and here's this little bull moose coming down towards those calves. Well, she runs up there and chases him back up in the trees and comes right back. And she's standing there with them calves looking up there, And I thought, well, he won't come back. By God, she did. Turned right around and come back. Well, he come back down, and that time he walked out a little closer. And she did the same thing, turned her head, her ears went back, and she dropped her head, and she took him. Up into the timber they went. Clear out of sight. I couldn't even see her. Pretty soon here she come trotting back, got right in front of them calves. And I thought, well, that should do it. He'll never come back. So by gosh, it was just a little bit, and I'm laying there watching him, because it was interesting. And by gosh, here he come again, third time. And she let him get down there in that opening. And that time when she went up into the tree, she had her head right up against his rump. She was pushing him into the trees, and he was running. And up into the trees they went. Well, she turned around and come back, and when she did, she walked around those calves, walked over to the river, and walked into the river. And I thought, she's surely not going to try to swim that river with those little calves. They'll drown. They'll go downstream into that lake and drown. They ain't going to be able to, She stepped down into that water, and it was right up on her belly. It was that deep, it was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4 feet.
Yeah, she stepped in there. She took another step or two and kind of let her body down. Those two little calves went up above her and jumped in the water and floated right up against her side. And she come across that river with those calves.
Holding those calves against the current.
On her side.
I'll be darned.
Crawled out on the bank, and my God, she went from me to you.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Now, who taught them that?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
All right, that's good. We got to take another pause for the cause.
Okay,
folks.
good.
We'll be right back here on Nebraska Outdoors.
This is Nebraska Outdoors on KFOR FM 103.3, 1240 AM.
And we are charging to the top of the hour in our conservation conversation here this evening, folks. We got another football game, I guess, going on tonight,
like
Jeff.
Yeah.
So he's Jeff, I'm Hershey. We're both with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. We are celebrating the outdoors with some storytelling tonight with one Dick Turpin. Again, National Hunting and Fishing Day this Saturday to celebrate all the things that not only opportunities, but also the impacts that our hunters and anglers have in this state and nationally. And here's another number for you, Jeff. $848 million
Thank you, hunters. Thank you, hunters.
No
of
kidding.
hunting. 562 of that or 562 million in retail sales. Over 8,800 jobs supported by the hunting here in Nebraska.
This past Tuesday, the governor himself, Pete Ricketts, was at the Outdoor Education Center here in Lincoln to sign the proclamation declaring National Hunting and Fishing Day, and he stayed around and did some shooting on the ranges. We have some good pictures of Governor Ricketts on the firearm range. Our governor can shoot.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I'm going to tell you right now, our governor can shoot, and he's a pretty darn good shot.
Pretty determined guy. And
Well,
Jimmy Douglas asked me, because they had a National Turkey Day, Wild Turkey Day. Mm-hmm. He asked me to make a call for the governor, so I did. And I made him a call and give it to Jim, and they gave it to him, some kind of a presentation. I didn't know what it was. But anyway, I got a really nice note from him. He and his boy went out and they killed 2 tom turkeys.
With one of your calls.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
I stuck that in my scrapbook. That was nice.
Yeah, that is
I've
cool.
made over
Cool.
3,000 calls. I think the last one was 3,700 and some calls I made since I retired.
And
I'll be darned.
now here's a question though I have, Dick,
Yeah.
and maybe maybe this is a Nebraska governor thing, but there were a lot of cookies at this event on Tuesday.
There were
some
a lot of cookies.
wonderful cookies. They had little campfires on them. They had little
Yeah.
archery scenes.
Yeah,
And as soon as he left, they were gone. I mean, just gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know the governor brought his own cookies and took them with him.
I have to think it was his security detail.
Was it
I
the security detail?
Yeah, took all the cookies with him.
Took the ball when the game was over.
So, yeah.
Took the ball home with him.
No,
Well, I'm going to tell you about Ed Kozicki. He was a
Yeah.
good friend of mine. He was a professor over in Iowa in one of the universities. Wrote a lot about hunting dogs. He taught down in Texas, too, at one of the universities. And he worked for Olin Matheson for the Winchester people for years. And he
This
fished
is the
with-
Olin.
Yeah.
The Olin.
Yeah,
Okay.
Olin, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he fished with an old guy over on the Mississippi River, and I never did meet him. The only name I knew was Catfish Charlie. His name was Charles, and he was also a professor. But those two old guys, Catfish Charlie was over 90, and Ed was in his 80s, and they're out there in a flat-bottom boat on the Mississippi fishing for catfish. Neither one of them should have been there. Ed says one day we're sitting there Turpin, and he said, I looked over at Catfish, and he said he's sitting there in the boat, his pipe in his mouth, and his fish pulls across his lap, and he's staring. You know how you do. You get staring. He said, I leaned forward, and I said, Catfish, what are you thinking? And he looked and said, what am I thinking? He said, yeah, you're staring. Oh. He said, I was just thinking, getting old ain't all bad. Ed said, I looked at that old guy. I thought, what's he thinking now? He said, I leaned forward and I looked at him and I said, tell me one thing about getting old. He said he took his pipe out of his mouth and pointed it at me and leaned over and said, well, you can't die unexpectedly. I thought that's one of the best.
If I go tomorrow, no one will say it was unexpected.
I'm 84 years old. I've reached that plateau. So I'm happy. If I die, they say, well, Turp's dead, yeah. But God, he was 84, you know. So I can't die unexpectedly. I keep telling my wife that. I get to feel a little bad some days. I said, maybe today's the day, you know. No. But I thought that was one of the funniest lines.
No, Dick, you'll live forever.
but old that old guy that used to write, I can't think of his name, but he wrote a lot of fish and game stuff, and he had the 3 postulates I told you about. Mm-hmm. One of them was, today for me, tomorrow for thee. And he wrote in Ed's letter to Ed when he was writing to Ed when he worked for Matheson, Olin. Ed read this, and he said, I had to pick it out because it's right there and all, no punctuation, no nothing. Said, today for me, tomorrow for thee. And he said, then he explained that. He said, get your work done. You know, get what you have to do done. Then you help your buddy. Don't be helping your buddy and shirking your duty, you know. So do that. And the other one was, today for me, tomorrow for thee. Oh, I can't remember the first one. But anyway, the last one was, no man, he said, hath, he said, no man hath all the intelligence. Even a monkey falls out of a tree once in a while. I don't know where he came up with that. I wish I could think of the other one because it's just true, yeah. Oh, he said, what is. That was what his statement was. What is. He said, there are a lot of things in life that whatever is. You're not going to be able to change it, you know. Mm-hmm. You can't do it, and you might as well face up to that and just go around it and go on with life because what is.
I tell you what, good words to live by there.
Yeah. Well, I found some old magazines one time. A guy gave us, he called me up and wanted to know if we wanted all this stuff. So I went over to his house over in Bennington, and he had all these mounts. He was a taxidermist. He had endangered species. He had a least tern over there. Game Commission really wanted that, you know. Mm-hmm. And he had all these mounts, so we're dusting them all off and everything, you know. And they're all in really good shape. I couldn't figure that out. Well, about 2 years later, I'm thinking about telling the story, and I got thinking, you know, we're up there in this old house dusting these things off with dusters, and they treated them with DDT.
Yeah.
And we're up there just to breathe DDT. But he had a lot of stuff. But in these old magazines, they were throwing them out and burning them. And I got to looking. And they're back in the 20s and 30s. Field and Stream, Outdoor
classics,
Life.
yeah.
Well, this old man had articles in that. I can't think of his name now. But he was an old outdoor writer. And so I read some of his stuff in that, and that was kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of those old guys were funny.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought the deal die unexpectedly was one of the old Catfish Charlie. He had her down.
I get to that ripe old age where no one can be shocked.
Die unexpectedly, yeah. Ain't that the truth?
Oh, God. Well, you know, like you said, you know, some of these, any of these stories, you got to get out and live them first.
Oh,
you're right. You got to get out and make the memories because where these stories come from is memories.
I remember I was hunting with Dick Mock. He passed away. We were hunting bow and arrow.
Another good guy.
Yeah, we were trying to kill squirrels. And we got this squirrel up a tree, a little oak tree, and there was a little hollow kind of a deal. And that squirrel got his front end in that hole, but he couldn't get his hind legs up to get a hole to push him in. And there he hung, his rear end just hanging out of that tree. And he wasn't up there very high, you know, maybe 8 feet or so. And Dick and I were with our bows and everything. Well, it's funny how here you are, you're trying to kill him, you know. And here's this poor little squirrel, just can't quite make it in the hole. And so Dick says, God, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. Here's that little squirrel. And we'd killed a couple. I was standing by a tree, and I had my arrow in my hand, and this little squirrel come down, and I was just standing there real still, and he didn't know what it was.
Sure.
And he crawled right down on that limb where my arrowhead was. I just turned it loose and killed him.
Yeah.
So we'd skinned him, and of course we had the meat because we're going to cook it. We ate those squirrels. So we'd killed squirrels, but here's this one stuck in a hole. I said, what do you want to do? Oh, he said, I feel so sorry for him. I said, me too. He can't get away. He said, what do you want to do? I said, listen, put down your bow, get up on my shoulders and tuck him in. He said, so Dick, I got a hold of the tree, and Dick got up on my shoulders and tucked that squirrel so he could get in. So we ain't all bad.
Give him a little nudge.
Yeah. I bet that's the first and only time Dick ever tucked a squirrel into a hole in the tree. But that's a true story.
Oh, my God.
We laughed about that later.
Yeah.
We're eating squirrel that night. I forget what he fixed up, but we boiled that and trimmed the meat off the bone and did something I can't remember. But while we're eating it, we're thinking of that squirrel, you know. Yeah, that was funny.
I like this picture of you down on your knees and Dick climbing on your back and then taking his fingers and giving that squirrel's little tush a little shove to get him up in that hole.
As soon as he got where he get his feet in, get a hold.
I bet that squirrel's still telling that story too.
I bet he is. I bet he's so,
I was stuck bigger in life.
He's so thankful.
Well, Dick, we got to go. I can't believe our time is up. Thanks for joining us.
I'm tickled to death to have been here, and thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Well, we'll always love having you. Hershey, I know you got big plans this weekend. Me too. We got a shotgun workshop to complete this weekend still.
There we go.
That's going to be a lot of fun in honor of National Hunting and Fishing Day. Folks, thanks for listening to Nebraska Outdoors on Lincoln's Own, KFOR 1240. And remember, time spent outdoors.
Time well spent.